Chapter 15 The Bitumen Beast. My primary school was the tiniest of midgets compared to the giant that was Ion. Even I could walk from one end of my old school to the other in 4 minutes. Ion seemed like a raging monster in comparison. In the middle was the quadrangle, an ocean of angry bitumen rolling in the heat of Brisbane summer. Around it were a hodgepodge of classrooms, a hall, a library, a tiny chapel, a science block, a manual art workshop, and more classrooms. They, in turn, were surrounded by a giant green moat of sports fields. Guardian Angels was so small you could have lifted it up and plonked it on the Ion quadrangle without hitting a building on any sides. Lots of familiar faces came with me to start grade 5, including David and Robert F., plus a heap of new kids too. In grades 5 to 7, we had our own classrooms, our own lunch area, our own teachers, and our own deputy principal, our own little world inside the bigger school. I went from a school with a few hundred students, one to that had nearly 1,000. It was still a new and gigantic and grand and frightening. Everyone was trying to fit in the new school, including me. I was desperate to find my place, to work out where I fitted. Maybe it would be a new start. Maybe I'd be able to prove myself in the classroom. I was reading lots and could pick up facts fast enough that I didn't always need to work hard to understand them. Surely this would be a big advantage, I thought. Surely the other kids couldn't help but see how smart I was. It didn't work out quite the way I planned it, though. It turned out that other kids could pick up facts quickly, too. Plus, they worked harder at it. I'd only been at Ion a few weeks when a kid I'd never met before called me Toe Nose. He must have seen the media coverage of my big operation when I was 4 and knew that the doctors had made my nose out of a toe. 4 weeks in, I was being called half a dozen other names that weren't Robert. Cripple, spastic, legless, and the dreaded toe nose. Even though some of my friends had come to the new school as well, sometimes it felt like the loneliest place in the world. I'd picked up a new nickname every 6 months or so. Some would go out of fashion to be forgotten for a year or two, and then come back in vogue. Some would slowly lose their power to hurt me and would fall into disuse. Quite quickly, I had accumulated enough nicknames to last a lifetime. Counting down, here's my top 10. Number 10, Toothpick Legs. Origin, a quick look at my legs and an assumption they were made of wood. Originality, medium. Hurt factor, mostly I was annoyed having to explain my artificial legs were not made out of wood. Thank you very much. They were made from fiberglass, metal, and rubber. Wood is so mild last century. Laugh factor, low. How I got over it? Like a predator flourishing while its prey is plenty, this nickname burnt strong for a short while, but came to an end after kids realized it didn't hurt and got cranky when I yelled at them, they're not made of wood. Number 9, Flat Nose. Origin, people opened their eyes and looked at me. Originality, low. Hurt factor, medium. Laugh factor, low. How I got over it? One day I realized that for the first few years of my life, I didn't have much of a nose at all. Hence, the ancient proverb, better a flat nose than none at all. Number 8, Pinocchio. Origin, The Adventures of Pinocchio was a children's story written by Carl Collodi in the 1880s. Pinocchio was carved out of wood and became a real boy, but not before numerous trials, including seeing his nose grow longer every time he lied. Originality, medium. Hurt factor, medium to low, especially once I remembered that my nose was squat and squashy, not long and pointy. Laugh factor, medium. How I got over it? I told myself that I was a real boy, not a puppet made of wood, and that my nose would never grow. Number 7, Go-Go Gadget Rob. Origin, Inspector Gadget was an animated series about a bumbling detective that started in the 1980s. He had all sorts of attachments connected to his body, a helicopter that came out of his hat, robot arms extenders, and bouncy springs in his leg that made him really tall, really fast. Originality, medium. Hurt factor, low. Laugh factor, medium to high. It was kind of funny after all. How I got over it? People started realizing my legs didn't actually have gadgets attached to them. Number 6, ugly face. Origin, I'm not a not unresponsible reflection on what I looked like at the time. Originality, medium. Hurt factor, medium. Laugh factor, low. How I got over it? It was too boring to care about for long. Number 5, retard. Origin, from the Latin retardare, meaning to retard, and ultimately tardis, meaning slow. Retardation was used as a medical term for quite a long while, and it was a short step to label a person a retard. Originality, low. Hurt factor, medium. Laugh factor, low. How I got over it? This one held a lot of power over me for quite a while. Yes, I had an ugly face and no legs, but my brain worked quite well, thank you very much. I just had to unjoin the dots for the people who thought that being physically disabled automatically meant you were intellectually disabled too. Number 4, Transformer. Origin, the Transformers were a series of toys bought out of the mid-1980s by Hasbro. They were robots that changed into cars and motorcycles and planes and trucks and then changed back again. Originality, high. Hurt factor, low. This nickname was also often used with affection and sometimes accompanied by the theme song from the TV series. Probably my favorite of all the nicknames I got in school. Seriously, what young boy doesn't want to be a robot with guns built into his arms and the ability to change into a Mack truck or jet plane on demand? Laugh factor, high. How I got over it? I didn't really need or want to get over this one, but it fell out of use. Number 3, Stumpy. Origin, well, yes, I had below knee amputations on both legs and part remaining after the surgery is called a stump. They were very observant of you. Originality, medium. Hurt factor, medium. Laugh factor, low. How I got over it? I figured it was true, so ultimately there wasn't much to be done about it. Number 2, cripple. Origin, from an Old English cripple, meaning to creep. Originality, medium. Hurt factor, high. It was the mean truth of this nickname that hurt the most. It was so broad it seemed to cover all of the very worst things sometimes thought about myself and my disability. Plus, say it out loud and listen to how it sounds. Awful. Laugh factor, low. How I got over it. Cripple was once a legitimate medical term, like retard. In the 1800s and early 1900s, doctors used it to describe anyone who had a difficulty walking. It's considered impolite now to say that someone is crippled. Most people use the word disabled instead. I made my peace with the nickname, telling myself that it was technically valid, at least the original medical sense. I decided that I wouldn't let this have any power over me. Number 1, toe nose. Origin, Journals Hugh Loon was written about the doctor at the Martyr and how they used bone and cartilage from my amputated toes to make me a new nose. Some bright spark read about it and then joined the dots. Originality, high. Hurt factor, high. Calling a 6-year-old kid with glasses for eyes may be very hurtful and painful, but at least in some ways it makes them a part of a group. There were a lot of kids with glasses. They're not alone. They belong. Most kids just want to belong. They want to be one of the tall kids, one of the pretty kids, one of the fast kids, or one of who were good at football, or whatever. But toe nose was so specific. It cut to the very heart of me, making me ashamed of the good work the doctors had done. Sometimes I even wished they hadn't bothered. And it didn't apply to anyone else. I owned it. At the time, it felt terribly hurtful, terribly strange. Who else had a nose made out of their toe? How do you defend yourself against that when someone is using it to tease you? Laugh factor, none. How I got over it? I never did get over this one. To this day, this is the one nickname that has real power over me, the power to hurt.